I'm doing something completely out of the box and new. Normally, I have like a bunch of canned presentations that you could wake me up in the dead of sleep and I can do the money game on slide 6, right? Because I've done it 300 times or whatever. And this venue and this group of people almost demands a different level of interaction. And so instead of me doing a bunch of canned material, I was listening to all the speakers, and real honestly, I came with nothing prepared. I built 4 slides between yesterday and today, and I'm going to share 4 mini talks. And the 4 mini talks are about 7.5 minutes each. And then after the mini talks, I'm going to open up for Q&A, and I'm going to give you a bunch of challenges within the mini talks. But all of these are geared to get you thinking about what we covered over the last 2.5 days and how to take what you learned and move forward with it. So this slide right here depicts my ideal lifestyle. My ideal lifestyle is laying on a hammock at a beach. In fact, I'm redoing my office next year, and I'm thinking about having a good friend of mine do a mural on the wall, which looks like I'm looking out over the railing of a beach house where there's nothing but sand and salt grass right out front, and then ocean on the rest, so that I sit in my office and look out at the ocean every single day. Because I'm not lucky enough, like Josh Oakes, to have an ocean view every single day, right? Right, Josh? So this is my ideal, and my ideal is that I truly believe that we are all getting to a point in our life at some point where we never work for anyone. That's the goal, ultimately. Can I get an amen? Amen. The goal is to work for a period of time and to do smart things with your resources to get to a point where you never work for anyone. And never work for anyone could be, you might not even ever work for yourself at some point because the money's working so hard for you, it just takes over. So I'm going to ask you a question. Have you ever said to yourself or heard someone else say, I need to get a job? Raise your hand. I need to get a job. Why do we need to get jobs? Money for what, though? Why do we need a job? Food? Shelter? Shots? To build a family. Yeah, because they're expensive, right? My kids, they are. I mean, my kids have this nasty habit of eating 3 times a day. It's awful. I like try and beat them into submission, and they keep it in the fridge. What else? To mash. To mash, yeah, because we want to make awesome shit happen. We got to go out and change the world, and it takes money sometimes to do that, right, Jake? It does. So we need money for this, but we say things like, I really need to get a job. And what I realized a long time ago is that most of the people who would hire me, and I've been through a number of interviews. At this point, I'm functionally unemployable. Because, number one, I get along with most people, as y'all probably know. But the people that I have not gotten along with well in my life were called my boss. I just don't, my wife now is my best boss, and I get along with her great. And that's the goal, right? The goal is to go out and get along with the people you work with. But if I went out and I was interviewing for jobs, the most someone's going to pay me, ideally, in a job market is somewhere between $80,000 and maybe $150,000 a year. And I personally believe my time is worth far more than that, right? I'm a big believer in audience participation, by the way, so when I say savvy, you say savvy. Savvy? When I say you dig, you say we dig. You dig? Good. So I know that I'm worth more than that. And what I wanted to do was not work 60, 70, 80 hours a week, because I grew up in a household where my dad was gone for most of the month because he traveled and did consulting. And while I love my dad, and he is one of my idols, and he is one of the most brilliant men I've ever known, I knew as a kid I did not want to raise my family the way he did. Not that it was bad, because I lived a blessed childhood, but I wanted to live it differently in the sense that I wanted to be home more than I was away. I wanted to give my kids way more opportunities to see the world than I did, even though I went to Hawaii 3 times in my teenage years, and I went to Europe in college and traveled in Australia, New Zealand, Fiji after college. I've done a lot of cool things, but I want to give my kids that opportunity when they're 10 and 12 and 14, and I want them to see Europe for not a week at a time, but 3 months at a time. And to do that, I got to change it a little bit. So I'm going to give you a challenge. I don't believe that you have to get a job, because the people that are going to hire you are going to say, well, this job pays $12 an hour. Or, well, this job is worth $50,000 a year. And if you do the math, that's about $25 an hour, right? So instead, what I want you to be thinking about is, and this is what I want you to do. This is a test. So in the next minute, I'm going to give you 1 minute to think of this. If I gave you $50 today and I said you have to give me $500 by Tuesday and you have to make it off this $50, write down on your page how you would do that. How would you come up with $500 if I give you $50 today? You have 1 minute. Ready, set, go. So you would flip a discounted product. You'd improve a product, flip it, and make money. Cool? Give him a round of applause. That's awesome. Now, so I mentioned these are my buddy Mitch's Q-Decks. Mitch, this was an idea. You sold this for $9.99. That's what retail price is. They're now. Okay. So, and I'm not going to ask you what it costs to create these, but to make $500 in these, you'd have to sell how many decks? Okay, so 150 decks in 48 hours is roughly 3 decks per hour. Yeah. So that's what you'd have to do. This is an idea. This is a product. This is just something. So here's the point of this little exercise is you have to think entrepreneurially. Stop thinking I have to get a job. You will get a job. I have no doubt many of you will go out and get a job right after school if you're not already in one. And the job is necessary. But the job is necessary for what you learn, not for what you earn. If you take a job for what you learn, not for what you earn. Because if you take a job for money, you'll always chase the buck. But if you take a job for what you learn, then you'll always get better and better and better, and people will pay you for your knowledge and your expertise and your wisdom. You dig? Cool. Some people didn't come to this event because of money. You realize that? We invited a lot of people, and I don't have the money. Oh, I can't get off work. $500 left for a weekend, or $600 or $700 or $1,000 after travel, right? $1,200, whatever it is. Realistically, it does not matter what the amount of money is. Jenna Scott, when I first met her, she goes, "It's only money," right? She's like one of the first to sign up. And I'm like, amen, sister. It is only money. And you know what? Have you gotten a $1,000, $5,000 idea here? Probably 100 times that if you take the information and actually leverage it. So the cool part about this whole theory of I'm never going to work for anyone is I'm teaching my kids this. And my kids are some of the most entrepreneurial little buggers you'll ever meet. So my daughter is a good story. My daughter, she loves animals. Her name's Piper. She's 10 years old. And way back when, my first entrepreneurial lessons for her was I had a gumball machine, actually 2 gumball machines, and I would take her one Saturday a month. We'd have daddy-daughter Saturdays where we'd go get donuts at Dolls, which is a grocery store. It's like alliteration Saturday. Donut at Dolls with daddy. So we would go, and she'd sit up real tall and proud in the back of my car, and I'd say, "Piper, where are we going today?" And she'd go, "We're going to go collect passive income, Daddy." At 5, right? This is at 5. Now, when my mom comes, she's very creative, and she inspires creativity in my children. And my daughter said, "Grandma, I want to order dog collars, and I'm going to decorate them really fancy, like bedazzle them." She's into bedazzling right now. She wanted to bedazzle them and sell them online to dog owners. I said, "That's a genius idea because, pet owners will pay a lot for their pets." I said, "But honey, so let's think about this. How would you market it?" And she said, "Well, a website. I would definitely have a website." And I said, "What would your website be?" And she said, not kidding, no, did not miss a beat. She goes, "dogstyle.com." And I'm sitting there it's over Raisin Bran or something, right? And I'm like, and I go, "How about PiperLovesPuppies.com or something?" She goes, "No, Dad, I've thought about it. Dogstyle.com. It's easily memorable. I could have a YouTube channel." And I was like, no. No. So my wife walks in the door. "What are you guys talking about?" "Piper's new business." "What is it?" "Decorated dog collars." "Really cool." I go, "Ask her how she's going to market it." Piper goes, "Dogstyle.com." My wife goes, "Oh, that's really cute, honey." I go, "Jen, it's dogstyle.com. But this is what I'm after in my kids. I want them to think entrepreneurially. At dinner, I'll ask them, "Guys, you have to make $500 by this weekend. How do you do it?" Man, they're coming up with all crazy, great ideas. "Oh, I'm going to go buy some brine shrimp eggs at the pet store, and then I'll breed them, and I'll catch tadpoles down at the thing, and I'm going to sell them to all the kids in the neighborhood." It's like, okay, well, yeah, that's a great idea. What else you got, right? And they're just they're just a frenzy of ideas. But by the time my kids are teenagers, they will be fully self-sufficient. And they will be entrepreneurial, and they will never work for anyone because they'll figure out how to do it early and often. And it is a mindset. Say mindset. It is a mindset. You don't have to work for anyone. You just got to figure out how to add value to the marketplace so they pay you for your ideas and what you do. Period. Exclamation point. End of story. Savvy? Cool. One quick story about Piper. So she's an avid reader, voracious. Like she polished all of the Harry Potter series off in 3 weeks. And now she's read all of the books 3 times. And that was in preparation of our movie marathon last week where we watched all of them, right? So there may be a lot of Harry Potter references in this because it's very fresh. So she had a whiteboard in her room, and she wanted to do a word of the week. And the word of the week was just her idea because she found a dictionary in my office, and she pulled it off and said, Dad, can I take this to my room? I said, yeah. So she goes and she's looking through, and she started with A, and then the next week was B, and the next week was C. So on the B week, my wife she's like, you have to come up here and see this. And I walk in and I look at the board, and of course my daughter loves animals, and the word of the week is bitch. And the definition is a female dog, or to gripe or complain loudly. Which is technically accurate. And she says, is it okay? And my wife goes, honey, if you use that word on the playground and someone overheard you, you might get turned in. It can be a negative word. You just might want to change it. She said, okay, I will. So the next day we go in, and I'm like rummaging around in her room, and the dog's in there, and I'm like getting him out. And I look at the board, and my jaw drops because she went back to the dictionary and replaced bitch with the word that was right below it, which is butch. And the definition for butch is a short haircut. That's the first definition. And the second definition is a lesbian who assumes the dominant role. This is what happens when you raise inquisitive, curious children. And people will say, does she know what all those things are? I'm like, she had a dictionary, right? Like if she didn't, she probably does now. Point two is this. This is my second mini story. My second mini story is I got some serious super friends. Y'all have super friends? Yes or yes? These are obviously not my super friends, nor my kids, but they represent to me who my friends are. And my friends are standing in the back, and they're the speakers, and they're the alumni of this awesome organization. And my super friends do really cool, crazy, amazing things. They make awesome shit happen. That's why they're my friends. And what you have to have around you to succeed is the adjacent possible. And the adjacent possible is this notion that it was done in like research, that when a researcher found some new molecule or way of testing a theory, and someone else in the lab saw it and went, ooh, I can do that here and actually solve this. And Chris Motley, I was telling him that this morning, and he said, there was a guy who he actually owned a cement business, and the issue with cement is that it has to go around and around in the truck, otherwise it'll harden. And he figured out that was a really expensive way of keeping cement wet. But if you actually just did subtle vibration, it would stay wet. And he applied that to folks in the oil fields in Alaska who said that the concrete pipelines would freeze, and then there would be oil spills, and it would cause natural disasters. And they borrowed that because of the adjacent possible and just set minor vibrations to the cement tubes, and now the oil doesn't freeze. So they've saved billions and billions of dollars. This guy got $70,000 for his idea to consult with them. They've saved billions, right? But the adjacent possible is the untapped potential of what could be. The untapped potential of what could be in this room was talked about yesterday. Calvin had a slide that said, who's in your flock? Do you remember that? He took the photo on one of his trips. There's all the sheep around you. Who's in your flock? Right? Are these people inspiring you? Are they doing crazy, awesome things? Are you talking about ideas, or are you talking about people? Because average people talk about other people, but great people talk about ideas. Right? So you got to be surrounded by people who talk about ideas. Secondly, Matt DeSales talked about all the mentors that he had. He had mentors for spiritual, he had mentors in business, he had mentors in every aspect of his life. Race car driving, talked about that. Who are your mentors? And I believe truly that you got to have a mentor and a mentee at every point in time in your life. Mentor and mentee. Because the mentees will challenge, they will draw from you, and the mentors will pull you. Right? So all the way along, we're like this. Right? That's our goal. That's our goal. So who are your mentors? The Big Dream Gathering, all these sheets around the room, this is the adjacent possible. So if you read any one of these and you vibrated at the same level that they're at, where you said, shit, that's cool, I want to do that, or that's great, I'm going to go write a new dream, that's the adjacent possible. That's why there's so many sheets on the wall, right? That's why every time we do this, it's like, holy cow, we just got even more sheets than we had last time because of the adjacent possible. That's why each and every one of these you must comment on. We have to have comments. Because the people you know that will allow these folks to do what they want to do is the reason you're all here. We knew that the people we brought in had massive networks, had amazing experiences, had killer ideas, had immediate execution. That's why we put these up. And finally, Shane last night asked, is that not the adjacent possible? Just ask. The Ask Dinner, which is an unbelievably cool idea. Bring 10 people that inspire and motivate you in for dinner. Formal, black tie, no cell phones, and nothing but a notebook. How much more real can you get when it comes to the adjacent possible? We can all do this, right? So the question is, who is the adjacent possible? Who are you surrounding yourself with? Carroll Hank talked about it. It's the adders and subtractors, right? Multipliers and dividers. Well, I went through that list when I saw Dr. Verna speak, and I went, my gosh, I have a couple of dividers and a couple of subtractors in my crew. And one of the guys is one of my best friends. I love him. We've been at each other's weddings. But there are times there's some subtraction going on. There's some dividing going on. And so because of that, I tend to separate myself, and I surround myself with people who inspire me and take me to new levels, because I don't want to sit in a vibratory environment where things are negative. I want to go where things are possible. Savvy? I want you to write down your 5 closest friends. Who are your 5 closest friends you spend the most time with right now? And by the way, your friends can be family. I've got a lot of really close friends that are also my family, and my family are my friends. All right, so you have the 5. Now here's what I want you to think through. Each one, take 10 seconds on each one, and ask yourself, what is their adjacent possible for me? What do they draw out in you, or what do they inspire in you? Why do you spend time with them? What is it that they give you that makes you better? And if there's one that you're like, I don't really know, then we might want to consider how much time you invest in them, because they may not be investing in you. And this all is going to make sense. All the stuff that you're writing now, it's going to make sense here towards the end. But as you look through this, who are the folks in your adjacent possible? And are they, in Harry Potter speak, are they Dementors? Remember the Dementors? Where they come up and their face is sucking out of their body, right? You have friends like that, right? I know you do. And John talked about it a few minutes ago. It may be that people are like, come on, stay for another round. You're the best drunk driver I know. What a load of horse shit that is, right? So who are the Dementors? Who are taking away? Who are the adders and multipliers? Okay? But I want you to have super friends, and I want you to be super proud of your super friends. In this room, you're going to be friends with a lot of these people for a very, very long time. True or true not, Bo? True. Okay. So here's the other mini one. I've showed this, but who is this? His name is Archimedes. And Archimedes had a quote. He said, give me a lever long enough and a fulcrum on which to place it, and I shall move the world. Give me a lever long enough and a fulcrum on which to place it, and I will move the world. So my question to you is, what is your leverage right now? What are the leverage points in your life? And I'm going to have you do again, 1, 2, 3. Actually, no. I'm going to give you 2 minutes. I want you to list as many as possible. I'm going to get the list started. Your friends are leverage and their networks. Okay? Second is your education, knowledge, and or experience is a leverage point. But you have 2 minutes starting right now to list as many leverage points as humanly possible. And by leverage points, I mean things that can create a trajectory like this. Right? Not like this, but like this. Because Dane talked about last night how fast you can make money. And I think Christian, wasn't it you who wanted to take care of your family? Where's Christian? Is he around? Yeah. Dude, it's like that. So what are the leverage points? Right? That's what you want to be thinking about. And it's not, again, it's not all about money, but it's about you getting to where you want to go as fast as humanly possible. Because this is all about succeeding faster. The way to do that is to engage leverage. So what are the leverage points in your life? 2 minutes, starting right now. Ready, set, go. All right, pencils down, heads up. I always hated that in school. Sucked when you heard that. You're like, it was almost done. I was an 82. Okay, so how many had at least 8? Cool. How many had over 10? Awesome. How many had 15? Cool. How many had 20? Anyone have 20? Very good. You guys must be proficient in shorthand. That's hard to get that many in 2 minutes. That's really good. Now what I want you to do, look at your list. Top 3. I just want you to go through the list real quick and say, what are my top 3 leverage points in rapidly accelerating what I do in business or in life or in personal nature, relationships, and so on? 1, 2, and 3. So tell me again, succeed faster was the first one. Second one was education and knowledge, cool. And third is your health. Confidence and health. Right on, give her a round of applause. When I started thinking about how we leverage this business, and I had awesome conversations last night, which is part of the reason I can't talk as well today. But Shane is this guy who understands how to just create the whip effect, right? It's like do this and then create this ripple, which makes it huge. And he said, I don't want to help you go from here to here. I want to help you go from here to here. So let's talk about that. And I think this is a hypothetical situation, but if all of us said, hey, let's all just get together for 2 weeks and build Succeed Faster, and every single one of you took an active part in that for 2 weeks, this thing would be a multi-million dollar organization, and we'd have conferences all across the country at schools and and cities. Right on. Who's with me? Let's go! Full house line! Let's go! Okay, so we watched that movie too. Last mini talk. Leverage is super important. Leverage points. Last super talk mini talk is this. Did y'all see this? I have done some seriously stupid shit in my life. I have. Not this stupid. But I've done some stupid things. Now, do you think this was a risk for him? Yeah. No? Some say no. Why not? Okay. Okay. There's still a little bit of risk. And you make a good point, because what is his risk profile? If he's up to it. Okay, good. Major risk to the brand, okay, and tell me more. Yeah, like Red Bull gives you lead boots is not really a great slogan, right? Red Bull, proving gravity since 19 whatever. Right. So here's the question. Was this a risk, which I would say it is, but calculated, or was it risky? Was it risky? Not really. Not really. I mean, you imagine the amount of money that they spent and the quality of the engineers and the science behind it. Now, if I got on a helium balloon and took my ass up to 37,000 feet, risky, right? I got a fishbowl aquarium on my head. Little webcam, like the GoPro thing. Ah! Did you see him in the dead spin like this? How did he not just vom all over his helmet? But it's a calculated risk. And this is the big question. Are you taking calculated risks, or are you being risky? Are you taking calculated risks, or are you being risky? Let me tell you the difference in my mind at your age, any age really. Someone that immediately leaves school and has no money anywhere in savings or really even the mindset of making it, like I told you, like how would you make $500 on Tuesday? If you don't have that and you're going to try and go out and hustle your way into a business, that's risky. If you have no contacts, no knowledge in the business, no understanding of what goes on or policies or procedures, any of that, if you do that, that's risky. And you're liable to get stuck with something really bad. But if you take a calculated risk where you're using leverage and you're using the adjacent possible and you're applying the principles of never work for anyone, well, now that's a calculated risk and that gets you to exactly where you want to go, right? So the question is, if you are here and you want to get here, it's a very simple equation. It's A plus B plus C equals D, right? A is leverage. So you think about this. Where I want to go, who do I have in my life that I could leverage to help me get there? That's A, leverage. B is, how do I take calculated risks in getting there, but not be risky with my life, my resources, my investments, or whatever, my family, relationships. So how do I take calculated risks? That might be making quick changes, testing, right? Asking people for their advice. There's lots of ways to do that. And the last one is the adjacent possible. So leverage, taking calculated risks, and the adjacent possible equals, this is how I get to where I want to go. It's a very simple plan. It's an equation, a formula. And it's how I've done everything that I've done. And people will say, like, I love Tim Augustine, I love all these guys, and they'll say things about accomplishments or whatever. And I really view myself as someone who has not accomplished much or what I want to accomplish. There's a lot more that I want to do. And so to get a room full of 90 people and to have 8,000 people on an email list and to speak at numerous conferences and stuff throughout the year, that's humbling to me. But I look back and I go, really, all I did was use the adjacent possible, take calculated risks, and leverage up. And now I'm pretty much doing what I want to do, right? It's really not that difficult. It took me a long time to figure that out, long time being about 10 years after I graduated. But at 32, my head was pretty set on straight, and I knew where I wanted to go. I'm 37 now, and my goal, and I'm on track, will be to be functionally retired at 45. Functionally meaning there is more revenue coming in from passive income sources than I have in expenses, and when you do that, you no longer work for anyone. You dig? Okay, thank you. It's like this. Do this. Oh, please. All right, so here's what I want you to do. List the 3 biggest risks you've taken. Right on your sheet. 1, 2, 3. The 3 biggest risks, calculated risks that you've taken in your life. What are the 3 biggest calculated risks you've taken? Okay, so we got the 3 biggest risks. Now I want 3 risky behaviors. Write down the 3 riskiest things you've done. 3 risky behaviors or decisions or whatever. 3 risky things you've done. And I want to give you an example of how these two play out in different ways in different scenarios. And I don't want to bring the mood down, but I want to just illustrate how this works. So John was talking about, going out and how do you limit what you have to drink and all that kind of stuff. I basically have a 2-drink limit when I go out, and I'll tell you why. Because it's a calculated risk for me to go out and have a beer, period, and then go somewhere because I have 3 children and a wife at home to take care of, right? And I want to see my kids grow up and be super successful. I want to be there for that. So I have a 2-drink. When I go out, this is what I do. Right? But after 2, you'll say, I'm the bartender, fill a beer bottle up with water, and I'll carry that around. Because you know how it is. When you have a bottle in your hand, then no one's worried about you. Right? But if you don't, you need a drink, let me get you a drink. Right? It's calculated risk. If you want to be risky, you can do what my brother-in-law did 2 years ago. He partied really hard for about 36 hours, had lots of alcohol in his system, and took an oxycodone. And he died the next morning, 2 years ago. It was risky. Not a calculated risk, it's flat out stupid, risky. It's not what I want you to do. In business, take calculated risks. Don't be risky. In your life, take calculated risks, but don't be risky. Figure out a way to minimize all of that so that you can actually go out and do what you want to do. Because that's the point, right? It's not to be stupid and careless and bulletproof, even though we all believe we are, right? But to actually minimize the risk that we can go out and be super successful at it. You dig?